Welcome to the after lunch sessions for future casting. This continues the work that we've been doing for the week. I think the first 3 days would have been talking about what is possible and the things that you can use ICT for to make you learn better, be more productive, be more efficient. Today really begins the part of, now that we've told you what's possible, is to tell you what it is that is being done and some of the work going, especially in the local arena in terms of the amount of talent. I think this morning, I'm assuming that you all were here, where you had gotten a first-hand perspective in terms of the kind of work that is being done in the local ICT sector. That will continue this afternoon. We have two panelists with us who will also take us through the work that they are doing. I have Mr. Alex Graham of Tagman Media and also an employee of Tin and Ben Productions. Those are his bosses over there. They sent him up to present this afternoon and the work that he's doing. I have Ms. Ria Jack, who is the ICT Infrastructure Specialist at CARDI, which is the Caribbean Agricultural Research Development Institution. Ah, right, see, here we go. I thought I forgot that. So without further ado, I think we should get into it. So I'm going to ask Mr. Graham to share his perspective on, I see. Okay. That's you, right? Okay. I didn't do anything. All right. Okay. So to ask Mr. Graham to share his perspective on the animation industry, and he is one of two studios who took the plunge some years ago in this. So he is here to share that experience, and like I said, some of his thoughts in terms of how we take this forward to the benefit of ourselves and the industry and the nation in particular. Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Hines, and good afternoon. I told Mr. Hines he didn't give proper instructions. If he had told us that we were supposed to reply, then when he said good afternoon, we'd reply. So I'm going to try it just for kicks. Okay. All right. I'm good. I just wanted to get back to the start of the presentation, but I'm going to come out of it and go back in so I could start the video, right? Okay, cool. All right, we got that. It's okay.
Wake up, school days start again. When the fussing and the stressing, we not short of them. Any test, bring it, we can pass again. Going up behind, low back down, work on, I see. Steady up, watch your strong. As I am, come up like the head gun. Make sure up, it bad like the next one. And how and always got a full can.
In my soul class, watch me do the studio's pause. I am brilliant. Let me give you a dose, don't be pressured. Bullying's not right, be a moment. Saturday, top so Friday, boys like the pressure, the young child, let her focus. Do not play with them, I mean, I like the pressure. Don't commit suicide, be a leader, but I'm not right. School bell ring, I got friends calling. School bell sweet, head the vibes calling. They take the D's and the birds and the bees sing.
Wake up, school.
No, that was not for all afternoon entertainment. But if you're interested in all afternoon entertainment, we could ask Ria to back down, and I'm sure we could provide some entertainment for you. This afternoon, I want to talk a little bit about an idea to build on Mr. Hines' introduction, an idea that we believe should really form the context in which we try to drive animation in the ICT space in the Caribbean. Just for making sure information is correct, whatever they have on your program that says I'm from Tagman Media is not correct for this afternoon. I'm actually representing one of our other companies called Tin and Ben Animation, and I'm the chief storyteller at Tin and Ben Animation. I usually have a difficulty persuading people that that's my actual working title. And the concept that I want to share is one that I call We to the World, and really is to make a case for Caribbean content in using the ICT tools that we have. I'm starting with introducing Derek Walcott, particularly for those who might be younger and not familiar with the poetry and writings of Derek Walcott. Derek Walcott is from St. Lucia, and he won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1992. There's some interesting things. One of them is that Derek Walcott is one of 2 Nobel laureates from St. Lucia. They are ranked second, St. Lucia, as the number of Nobel Prize winners per capita in the world. Because with a population of just under 150,000 people and 2 Nobel Prizes, that is pretty significant in the world. Derek Walcott has a poem called Castaway, which he wrote in 1965, in which he described the Caribbean and people in the Caribbean as being on these disparate islands looking for some place of hope and some kind of direction. The starved eye devours the seascape for the morsel of a sail. The horizon threads it infinitely. I don't want to get too deep into literature, but to make the point that Derek Walcott represents some very specific things for the people of the Caribbean. Derek's work remained true to its roots, its culture, and his experience, but it reached a world that with time it had become relevant to. In other words, people from outside of our world got to a place where they started to see themselves and the world through our eyes, started to see our solutions as theirs. And so in the end, we are not as cast away as we might feel, but there's a world in which we find ourselves which is actually hungry for our perspectives and therefore hungry for our content. Just to keep the record straight, there's another son of the Caribbean who won a Nobel Prize for Literature, and V.S. Naipaul. And his thoughts on this are very interesting as well. The world is what it is. Men who are nothing, who allow themselves to become nothing, they're the ones who have no place in it. And so the challenge I want to leave with us this afternoon is that we have to recognize that the world is what it is. And if we will mean something, then we have to get up and do something about it. And I want to demonstrate how historically we have done that with Caribbean content, and how animation now presents another tool by which we could do that. In other words, we have walked always as a people who have presented our content to the rest of the world. And the 2 illustrations before you now, I think make the point, and I don't need to make the point anymore. Everyone is well aware that Jamaican Bob Marley in the end served a global audience with his content. And there's hardly a place on the planet where you could start singing any of Bob's favorites, and people in that audience, irrespective of their history, culture, or language, would not sing with you. And in some respects, the same is true for the Mighty Sparrow. We in the Caribbean come from a long line and a rich heritage of storytellers. It includes the storytelling that we brought with us from places like Africa and India hundreds of years ago. And we have honed those storytelling skills in the region over the years. Here we have some examples. Again, some of these examples, the guys around me tell me are a bit too old for some of our audience, but Louise Bennett is one that stands out. Hawkins Douglas, those of you who know Louise Bennett from Jamaica would remember Miss Lou and her auntie Rochi, who were very popular characters in the 70s. Tanty Murrell became a household name as a result of the work of Hawkins Douglas. Not as well known as the Barbadian Alfred Pragnell. And then way over on your right, you have Dave Martins, of Dave Martins and the Trade Winds. And people think of Dave Martin as a singer. I argue with Dave regularly that he is a storyteller. And he has with him in that photograph another older man, Francis Commoner Faria, who is also one of Guyana's foremost storytellers. All of these storytellers from the region have found a place using the storytelling techniques of their time and using the technology of their time to deliver Caribbean content to a wider world. And we know that the world has a demand for Caribbean content, not just because of the success of the people who I just identified, but because even the biggest producers of content and animated content in the world always find a place for Caribbean characters. Sebastian is one of them. That's one example, and there's another favorite example of mine. Sorry about that. We've got some technological challenges over here. And here's the last example. For those of you who grew up recently, and I see a lot of tinny boppers in the room, even that term might be dated, and there must be some other new name for them. Lance, I'm sure, would be very familiar with what they call themselves now. Or for those who have kids, would be very familiar with this. Ziggy Marley and the theme from Arthur. I think those make the point that globally there's a market for Caribbean content, for Caribbean personalities, and for Caribbean characters. Animation is merely, therefore, the latest in a series of tools that allows people in the Caribbean, creators in the Caribbean, to deliver our content to a global market. So we shouldn't get too romantic about animation and think of it as this distant thing. We have to start thinking of it in the context of who we are and what it is we've always done. We're storytellers. We have a storytelling history, storytelling traditions, storytelling successes, and we therefore have to see animation as coming into the suite of tools available to us to tell our stories with. In our company, Tin and Ben Animation, what we have tried to do is to build on that long history of storytelling to be able to tell stories that could meet, one, the needs in our local market, and two, to try to meet needs in a global market. We understand that we will never, almost, be able to compete with the world's really big studios. One of the favorite jokes in our office is about the producer from DreamWorks who was explaining just how much money they spend developing Kung Fu Panda. and they had a budget of over 600 million for animators to sit down and draw bamboo all day. We'd never be able to afford that in markets the size of ours. But the good news there is that people like Disney and DreamWorks are delivering content that we don't have to try to compete with. There's another body of content that nobody is working on, which gives us a niche in a global marketplace. Sorry, this thing keeps doing crazy stuff. So, what we try to do is to use animation at the moment to do a couple of things. One of them is to deliver educational content that's designed for our particular marketplace challenges in ways that imported content, even important animated content, wouldn't do. And we tackle the ugly social issues that Disney and Pixar and DreamWorks wouldn't tackle. We tackle ugly issues like sexual offenses. We tackle issues like bullying and drug abuse and all the kinds of stuff which you wouldn't find in the big budget products from a different market. We have recognized that there are markets in Africa, for example. We haven't yet figured out how we're going to deliver to those markets. The challenges are significant but not insurmountable. But there are markets around the world that have the same needs as we do and require the same set of messages to be delivered and can embrace the delivery that we have. Once we could get past some language and accent barriers and so on, there's a whole market open there. And so we've been using our animation to do just that. So let me show you a promo for one of our products that we launched just over a year ago, I think.
This is going to be an awesome first day of school.
What's in that fat boy?
Some people really don't have manners.
Yo, fat boy, pass over the lunch bag.
Why are they picking on me all day, Nancy?
If you don't toughen up, they're gonna always be on your case.
That boy looks like an ice cream cone.
Why is everyone always picking on me?
I don't know, Howie, but don't worry. I'll always be by your side. We're going to deal with them another time. School bell rang and my friends calling. School day, sweet head of ice falling. A to the Z's and the birds and the bees sing.
So that's one example of stuff that we're doing right now. That's from an animated series that is attempting to tackle all of the well-known challenges that we have in our high schools and among our youth, and to try to be able to communicate effectively with young people on those issues. I have another example of what we've done. This one is particularly interesting. Again, we can't find a way yet to really leverage it in markets outside of ours, but given especially the challenges in the small islands of the Caribbean with extreme weather phenomenon, we have developed a family of water droplets who have to fight to survive all kinds of things. They have to survive heavy rainfall and flooding when it's raining. They have to survive drought. They have to survive hurricanes. And so what we've found is that the best way to help families prepare for extreme weather phenomenon is to get children in the families to try to persuade the parents to do things. And so this is one of our products which is aiming to do just that.
Mommy, Daddy, guess what happened today at school?
Miss Fawcett did what?
Yes, she made me the official flood monitor for this house.
What does a flood monitor do?
I get to make sure that we are safe if the bad Mr. Flood comes.
But how?
By having a first aid kit ready, having all important papers in a waterproof container, having a source for our rain clothes and other important items, also being ready to move to safer ground.
Boy, watch us there!
But where would we go? And what about Mr. Puddle? He can't move anymore.
I got you, Grandpa. I would never leave you.
So we're safe.
Who could be knocking at this door?
I got you!
Oh no, Mr. Flood. I am the flood monitor, and I was expecting you.
All right, you weren't supposed to see this, but we got funding to do that one. Um, but we haven't been able to get funding yet to do the one about drought and to do one about hurricanes and to do the one about, but we try to use this family to educate other families about how to prepare for extreme weather events. I want to show one last example of how we've actually been using animation in the marketplace right now. And let me give you the background to this one. In Guyana, I'm not sure with the rest of the region, but certainly in Guyana, there are jobs that you do when you fail at school. One of them is if you didn't pass exams, they send you down by the waterfront and you start to walk as a bowman, throw the rope, pull in the rope and so on. Eventually, you hang around the boat long enough and you become the boat captain. And that's a career path for people who didn't do well at school. In the real world, if you want to become a boat captain, you actually have to go to sailing school. So that people in the real world have degrees to drive their boats in the water. And in Guyana, people are in the same water because they failed at school. Now that's quite fine until one of two scenarios develop. One, there are two people in the water with boats and they don't know what they're supposed to do as they approach each other. Or a scenario which plays out regularly in the Berbice River now, and it will start in the Demra River with oil and gas. You have boats coming into the river, piloted by people who have 3 degrees, and they're coming head-on into boats piloted in our rivers by people who didn't do well at school. And so we've been trying to find a way to bridge that gap. How do we teach maritime regulations and laws to people who didn't finish school so that they have the same competencies in the water with people who have a master's degree in piloting a boat? And we found that one of the easiest ways to do that is through animation. And so we've been developing some tools to help provide that training. And we'll just show you a quick piece of one of those tools now.
What, boy? You don't see what going on from there, boy? That man come straight for me. Where he there? Like crossover. It's what happened with that man there, boy.
Who you think you is, Bano? You use a traffic police on the water, tap or what?
Boy, like you ignorant or what, boy? Like is dead you want all of we punish me for tap for dead?
What? Only other people must move out of the way?
Everybody got to stay on the right-hand side of the river.
It's where you get that from now, eh?
Oh, look how long them a tell we. How we must drive on the river top. And you must pay a little attention, man.
Okay, that's just a piece of a product we call Sweetie on the Water Top. Okay, so let me see if I could wrap this up for us very quickly. When we had the presentation just before lunch from version 75, Mr. Eldon Marks indicated that the AI industry is going to be worth $300 billion by 2020. And one of the reasons why people here must start developing their capacities in AI is because of what the global market represents. I found that number very interesting. It depends on where we source our numbers, and we're sourcing our numbers from different places. But just as he said that, I decided to check on what is the projected growth in the market for animation. Now this includes all animation. It wasn't broken down into areas in which we're working right now. But as a global industry, the global animation market is projected to witness a compound annual growth rate of 4.79% between 2018 and 2023, with the market reaching a total size of $404.83 billion in 2023 from $305.75 billion in 2017. If we compare those numbers, and like I said, it's not a fair comparison because we're using different sources, but if we compare those numbers, the market for animation services is growing almost at the same clip as the market for artificial intelligence is growing. And from just the numbers that they have right now, it suggests that the market for animation might actually be bigger than the market for AI. Don't let's argue that today. Just let's appreciate that there's a big global market for animation. There's a big global market for storytelling. Here's what Bill Gates said. Bill Gates said that we shouldn't fear artificial intelligence and what it's going to do, but we should recognize that the more things we automate, the industries that will continue to stand out are industries in the compassionate services and industries in creative services. So there remains a market for us to deliver creative content. There remains a market for us to deliver Caribbean content, Guyanese content, and animation allows us to be able to deliver that content very quickly. I should mention that one of the things about animation is that we get to embrace so many other people in the creative sector. And we, for example, just from these samples of products we showed you now, there are probably over 40 people who have worked in total on those products. These include artists, obviously, but long before we get to animators, there are writers, there are artists, there are voice talent, there's musicians. Other parts of the industry get work out of animation. There's studios where we record voice, there's studios where we develop music. So we are able to provide a food chain in which there's employment available for people who are working in this sector. I see somebody shaking their head at the back. You want a job? Check us out. We got space. Let me close this by challenging us to ensure that people who are in management of ICT development don't set the creative aspects in the creative industry apart and treat it as if it's something on the outside of the mainstream. Animation has to be a part of the mainstream. Many times I find when we're talking to particularly sector leaders and people in government, if you mention that people want to do robotics or something like that, people get all excited and they shake their head knowingly. The moment you mention animation, they start to think that this is something for children and they shouldn't waste their true executive time on it. Everything speaks to the contrary. The fact that economically it's a big deal to do this. For our educational needs, it's a big deal to do this. To tackle the social problems we have, it's a big deal to do this. And the economic benefits that will derive from animation and animation services, there's a big deal that we do this. I want to challenge, especially the young people in our audience today, especially those of you who have a creative bone in your body, who can write, who can draw, who can sing, who can speak, that there are opportunities available for all of you, and opportunities not to come in the future. Everything that I've showed you there today is a product that was developed and is in the marketplace. And we have a situation now where we don't have enough people or enough power to deliver all of the demands that are being made of us at the present time. So there's room for growth in the sector in Guyana today. And from our engagements with people in the region, I could tell you that there's room for growth right across the Caribbean. And we certainly wish that we could find a way to contribute to that. And we have offered to help a training program this holiday period, this school holiday period in Barbados. We're hoping that that still happens. And we're certainly trying to be able to do more of this. We collaborate, or we try to at least collaborate with people in Suriname and Jamaica, and some in Trinidad, people who we meet at Anime Carib, because there's a place, an opportunity, and a big market to do this. For those of you who are young people and want to know what you should do, I have 3 things to suggest to you. One is that you should write. We can't talk about developing Caribbean content if people are not writing. One of the biggest challenges we have is getting people to write. And I'm not writing code, Mr. Hines. I see you salivating there. It's not, we're writing stories, just to clarify. You need to write authentically about the Caribbean experience. And then you need to draw. You need to draw the Caribbean. One of the biggest challenges we have is that, you put people to draw and they start to draw kind of strange things that don't have, seem not to have context. There's a piece that was on TV a few nights ago about how people from the Caribbean suddenly start speaking with different accents when they pick up the phone. If you give them a service job, and they make a phone call, they change their accent. Today in Guyana, you put a microphone in front of a radio, and they get a new accent. As if there's some, spirit in the studio. Sorry, I shouldn't go down there. Mr. Wolford is in the room. I should just quit while I'm ahead. We have to be authentic. We have to write authentically about Caribbean experience, and that's why I showed Derek Walcott and V.S. Naipaul. They never betrayed their roots, their history, and their context in anything they wrote. And then lastly, after you write and you draw, you have to animate, and there's no shortage of opportunity for people who want to animate. I think I've gone over my time, Mr. Hines. Or am I doing okay? I'm doing okay. Oh, Ria says I have more time. Never mind what he says. I could take any questions you have now. And while we're taking questions, I'm going to just show... Sorry. There's something wrong with this thing here. Right. I'm going to show you a little bit of our studio and the people who work there, or some of the people who work there. Most of them are in the room. And if you want their autographs, you could ask me. But while we're taking any questions you have, I certainly could just give you a little look at what our studio looks like. You can tell that animating is very, very exciting stuff. Just look at the delight on those faces. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Graham. I didn't realize in my absence this morning, dollar figures were being bandied around. Please don't call any numbers unless I'm in the room. I have a grace in this and that. But the part about potential revenue and potential earnings has always been interesting, because I don't need to tell many of you in the room that the services and the products and the sectors that we have been in for between 50 to 100 years no longer serve us the way that it serves us in the past. So we have to pivot from where we were to where we are going to be. And animation and ICT and its various flavors, and the tail of ICT is so long in terms of the entry points as far as where you can enter in the market and where you could end in the market. That is something that is, while we talk about it and encourage you, one of the things that we do know is that I don't think we have a choice anymore. I think that we're going to have to move into these kinds of industries, because that's really what is going to be our salvation. Even though in Guyana we talk about oil and gas and the promise that holds, it is the nexus between oil and gas and ICT at the end of the day that's going to take us forward and get us to where we want to be. In terms of the amount of people, there's a story that Mr. Graham would know very well. A few of us had gone to California many years ago looking for the possibility of offshore work, and had carried some work that we had done, and they were quite impressed with the work. And then they said, well, this is nice, so, let's talk some business. How many staff do you have? So somebody had 5, somebody had 10, somebody had 4. And then at the end of the day, they said, well, we'd like to do some work with you, but Family Guy's animation studio in South Korea is 2,000 people. And what that means is that they could do the storyboard and do the writing by Tuesday, send it to Korea on Thursday, and by Friday it's done. And you're ready now for the show next week. Now, to give you an example of that, if you want to do a 22-minute episode in animation, if you run the calculation, you're looking at 30 people. And that will comprise of the people that Alex just spoke to you about in terms of what you need to do this, whether the voice, whether the script, whether the storyboarding, whether the actual scenario building. It's going to take 25 people to do that if you want to do a 22-second episode. Now, Family Guy needs that tomorrow. So the fact of having 3,000 allows them to be able to do that. So this is an industry that has potential, but it needs people. And they need people who need to be trained, and there's studios like Tin Ben and some others who can provide that kind of support. But this is the kind of industry that I think we should look at, and this is the kind of industry that certainly us in the ICT business in some form or the other would encourage young people to get into. Drawing is critical, obviously, and then from there, just a love for art and love for artistic things is something that helps as well. So, the thing. All right, some housekeeping, I think. The youth fair, I got a section, Chief, called Q&A. At the bottom, yeah. Some people just come and interfere with your program, like not invited them anymore. Nonsense. From there. Right, so as I was saying before, I was so rudely interrupted. The youth fair will be tomorrow. It starts at 9. I invite all of you to attend and tell your friends to attend. A series of exhibitors are going to be available tomorrow, strutting their stuff. Tinnaben's animation is going to be here. I believe version 75 is going to be here with Ellen Marks. Innovative Systems is going to be here as well. And there's some other guests who have come in as part of the CTU supported contingent. They're also going to be exhibiting as well. So I invite everyone to come. I believe that there is Minister Hughes on the last day of events like these, normally likes to have a town hall where she would take questions from young people and others, talking about the ICT and the direction that they would like to see it go in Guyana. So she should be here. I see a time here of 2 o'clock. I think that might be a little earlier because she has to go to Parliament tomorrow. But we will get that new time in as timely as we possibly can, so that that information could be shared accordingly. A little more housekeeping, something that we should do, just recognize our sponsors. Premium sponsor, Digicel. Other sponsors, Crimson Logic, the Latin American and Caribbean Internet Registry, commonly known as LACNIC, the American Registry for Internet Numbers, that is AREN, ISOC, which is the Internet Society, which is a global body that helps develop policy as it pertains to the management of the Internet. You will hear more of those. And then there's RSC International, which is a private company that also provided some support as well. Our thanks to them as always, and we look forward to their continuous support. Right, housekeeping done. Next item on the agenda is we're going to talk a bit about augmented reality, and this is with specific focus in the coconut industry. And we're going to invite Ms. Rhea Jack, who is the ICT infrastructure specialist. She is from CARDI, and if my memory serves, I think it did. It is the Caribbean Agricultural Research Development Institute. That is also one of the regional policy bodies advising all of us in terms of what we should do in terms of our direction in agriculture. Does that include marijuana, weed, anything like that? Or just hemp? Oh, sorry, hemp. Yeah, hemp. That's right, hemp. Yes, hemp. Hemp. So let me invite Rhea to come and speak to us about the things that she's doing. Rhea?
Okay, thank you, Lance. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the response. So this afternoon, I'm going to speak to you guys about augmented reality, and we're going to be specifically looking at an application in the Caribbean Coconut Industry Development Project, CCIDP. So for the rest of the slide, I'm not going to say the Caribbean Coconut Industry Development Project because it's too long, so I'm going to say CCIDP. But will you all remember what it's called? Fingers crossed. Just Caribbean Coconut Industry, not coconut something. All right. So just to give you a background of the project, just so you understand why we felt we needed to use augmented reality under this project. So this project is being implemented through CARDI, the Caribbean Agricultural Research and Development Institute, CARDI, and the International Trade Center, who is part of the European Union, And so the project is European Union funded and under the intra-ACP program. The intra-ACP program is pretty much just a program which seeks to promote increased trade, value addition, and production across the African, Caribbean, and Pacific group of states. So these are some of the products that we are trying to raise awareness. Well, these are not the only products, but we're trying to raise awareness of all of the coconut industry and not just coconut water or coconut oil, but just also other products that you can make using the coconuts. CARDI's role under this project, so there are 4 components to the project, but CARDI is responsible for these 2, which is risk management and mitigation. And so we see these coconut trees here with no leaves, and we see mites, and this is the weevil. I always mix it up. So I'm ICTs, I'm not actually agriculture. And so I always mix up. I always say a mite, and it's really a weevil, and everybody starts laughing in the room. But I'm happy that you all don't know either, so you all can't laugh at me. Okay, so this is the weevil and this is the mite, and these 2 are really, really bad for the industry. They actually make your trees become like this, and then there are no nuts, and the nuts get disease and stuff. Luckily, the millibug is actually a naturally eat the mites, and so we recognize that throughout the project. We recognize that, so the ladybird actually helps to control the population of some of these mites. And then which helps us to reduce the risks that's associated with the production of the coconuts. So CARDI is responsible for risk management and mitigation on the coconuts project, and we're also responsible for just having more production of coconuts, be it dried or fresh nut. Okay, so now we get into into reality, immersive experiences. I am going to be focusing on augmented reality because I felt that augmented reality was the better application in the agriculture sector, just because you are able, let me go through the definition of virtual reality, and then when we get to augmented, I'll talk about that. In virtual reality, this long explanation here, I thought it was the best I found on my search for what virtual reality is. But it pretty much is saying that a person is immersed in an environment using these goggles, and they can interact with a fake, not a fake environment, but it is fake. It's a virtual environment, and they can interact with the virtual environment through these goggles that you see here. In this one, we see a young lady. This is actually part of a UK project that was trying to get these fast food companies to try to increase the healthy foods that they are serving to the population. So they did a roadshow, kind of like this, and part of the roadshow was a virtual experience in a field doing, I think this is buffaloes. I'm not too sure what animal this is. And since some of you all are not agriculturalists, you all also don't know what animal this is. And then this here is a project in China. China is pretty advanced. Japan is pretty advanced with their introduction of virtual reality and augmented reality and mixed reality into society. And so this is pretty much just a project that helps to see the pests that are inside of I believe they just did it in greenhouses. I'm not too sure if this is an actual application out in the real world. So you just see the pests that are in the greenhouse, and it actually identifies which of these rows has the pest, and then it shows you a picture of what is happening to the crop because of the pest. So augmented reality. Augmented reality is, I feel, better for the agricultural sector, because what augmented reality does is it puts you into the real world, and then it adds virtual objects into the real world. So you are never just in a balloon or in like a space. You are actually interacting with the environment, seeing everything that's going on, but then it adds things to the environment. So for example, this is a classroom. This is in a classroom, and it's actually a classroom on, I think it might have been, I can't remember the course, but this is a cow that is virtually inside of the classroom. And so the students are just looking on. And so it gives a great application, because then you can talk about the different things of animals that students will need to know. And then in this application here, the addition is the statistics on what's going on inside of this greenhouse here, so we added it to the screen. Some of these things could become a little bit complicated to program, because you need to use some intelligence, as the guy from version 75. Is that correct? Version 75? Right. Was talking to us about. You need to use some intelligent systems to pick up all of this data to then project it into a virtual world. Okay, so under the Coconut, the CCIDP, Caribbean Coconut Industry Development Project, we use augmented reality to help us with, so right now I'm exploring it as an option for land use management for the coconut industry. And to get this done, we use two tools, one called Unity 3D, and the other one is called View4Real. Am I talking too fast? Is everyone understanding everything? Yes? Okay, great. So Unity 3D is a software that we use to create games and such. It's actually very, very huge software in the gaming industry. It's very, very powerful tool, extremely powerful tool. And View4Real recently came about, and maybe within the last couple of years, they started giving us a really, really good platform for developing virtual stuff to then deploy into Unity. All right, this is the View4Real platform. It's pretty much a website, so you can go, if you see here, there's a Hello CCIDP, which is the coconut industry profile in the View4Real platform. So you could just go in, log on, and use your email address to create your own profile. So I'm actually going to, at the end, because I realized I have 40 minutes, I am going to try to do a very quick AR deployment right here at the end of this presentation. It wouldn't take very long, just so that we can see that augmented reality is not a very far-fetched or scary idea. It's not hard to deploy. It's quite easy. It's very simple. Okay, so this is my profile in View4Real, and this is just the landing page. This is just the home page for the site. And then this is the Unity environment. This is actually one of the projects that I was working on to stitch with another project for the coconut industry development project, CCIDP. All right, and this is the Unity platform. So now we're going to do a very, very quick lesson. I hope this works, because I tried to pull together something very quickly. So let's see how it goes. Okay, so I am going to go into the View4Real platform. And in this platform, how many of you are software developers in the room? Any software developers? Hands all the way up in the sky. Okay, so not a lot of you. Any of you are in IT or any other field like it? Okay. Are you interested in seeing this demonstration? Yes, you are. Great. All right, so in this platform, and any of you could do this, you could go home, just download, set up your profile on View4Real, and download Unity. It's not hard at all. It takes like 10, maybe 15 minutes tops to get this done. It's not a very intense thing at all. Okay, so the first thing, luckily, Euphoria is actually free. So you can either pay for a key or you could get a key. And a key pretty much just allows you access into Unity. That's the only reason I'm using Euphoria, to get my access into Unity, to add the augmented reality into Unity. So I'm not going to pay, nobody pays. Well, you don't have to do that, but I'm going to get a free key, and I'm going to call it Roadshow, because we are at the Roadshow. And then I'm just going to click on Create. Oh, by clicking this box. Yes, so you have to click this or else it will tell you. Try again. Okay, so this is Roadshow, and I just click on this just to make sure that it is right. Okay, so this, no, you don't need to remember any of this, but this here is my key. This is my license key, and I will put this into Unity, but you'll see it very quickly. All right, then the next thing I have to go do is to go to Target Manager. And in my targets, let me show you all a demonstration very quickly of what we're trying to do first, and then we will continue. All right, so I created, well, this is actually, oh, I should also say this. Initially, I was trying to do one for some targets that was in Guyana, so I was taking out images in Guyana, but I forgot I couldn't get printing done. I probably should have gone to one of the organizers, but I couldn't get printing done, so I was going to make it realistic for you guys, but that didn't happen. So I'm using some stuff that I got from a university, some images that I got from a university, and they are 3D models as well. Okay, so in this world, if you notice on the ground here, this is actually an image. This here is actually an image of on a street. And the person took a picture of the street and then they uploaded it into this thing. So you can take a picture of your sister or a picture of your floor or whatever, and probably put like a unicorn horn on the person's head or just anything you want to do with it. All right, so this is what we're trying to do. I'll just hit play here. And hope it works. All right, so this is the augmented reality camera here, and so this is me in the real world. This is actually me here, and so we're trying to get onto the surface. We're trying to get this. I think he's called a fox or a wolf. We're trying to get him onto the surface. So this is adding to your environment. So this is what we're trying to do in the end, and this takes like 50 minutes to get done. And so you could use 2 images. So I'm showing you 2 images because sometimes, like if somebody is using a drone to take images of like land, then you have multiple shots of the land space, and you need to put, like if you're plotting like cabbage on a field or whatever, you need to have multiple shots of it. So this is what we're trying to get to in the end. All right, now we stop the camera and we start. All right, so I'm going to click on Add Database here, and I am going to name it the same thing, Roadshow. And then I'm going to click Create, and then I'm going to add an image. So this is where you're adding your images. It's not anything else but an image. How am I going for time? So I'm going to add an image here. And so you have different options. So you could add a single image, you could add a cuboid, you could add anything you want, but I'm just going to select an image. And I'll select this one here. Open. For the software developers, you have to put a figure here. I just would use a width of 1, but you could use anything you want. This becomes important when we transfer across the Unity to the gaming software. For the software developers, when you click Add here, this image that I selected that we're going to be using is not great to be augmentable. It's not the best, but it will still be, or it could still be augmented, which is just to add a 3D image on it. So the way you check that is, you see the rating here, it just says 1, so this is a 1-star rating, so we can't do it's not the best. Like the image, the 3D object will be kind of wobbly on the space and stuff because it's not the best for augmenting. Okay, so then I'm going to download this database, and I'm doing it in Unity Editor. So you could also do, View4E allows you to use Android, any device that is running Android, Mac or Windows. So you could use it on any of these devices, but I'm using Unity. All right, and while that is compiling, we then can go across to, okay, great. We go across to the desktop. I'm going to just click a folder here, just so that you could see everything that's happening. I thought most of the audience would have been persons who were in the tech industry, so I was going to show code and stuff, but we'll just skip that part for the sake of the persons who are here. All right, so in this folder, I'm going to quickly take the 3D models, which is the what do you call this thing? The Fox. And put it into this folder here, just so. And then I'm going to take that last thing that I just downloaded there and stick it into that environment as well. Into this folder. And then I go across to Unity, and so now I'm finished with View4E. There's no other thing that I need to do in there, and I'm going to go into New Project. And I'm going to name this project Roadshow, and I'm going to save it in my folder that I call Roadshow. And Unity takes some time to download. Are you all following along? Do you feel like if it's kind of easy? Do you feel like it seems easy right now? Or not? Yes, it seems doable. I feel like nobody's really responding. If you show your hands, how many of you feel like it seems very easy? How many of you find it seems semi-easy? Not easy at all. That's usually a good sign. It's always easy when somebody else is doing it. It's very true. One thing that I wanted to talk about with the image while the project is uploading. So for the software developers who are probably going to start using VR, so you just, in View4E, you just click on the image just to check to see how augmentable it is. You just click on on the show features, and then you see the areas that is possible that you can get a 3D model set up on. Normally, if the image is it's very easy to put a 3D model on. You'll see a lot more of these little stars, these yellow stars around the image, and so you know, okay, great, this image is augmentable. It's not that the images will not get a 3D model on it when you are doing the augmented reality. The 3D model will just be very shaky. It will just not stay still on the canvas that you're working with. All right, great. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to pull in the stuff that we just created from View4E. And just very quickly, how many of you are familiar with the Unity? How many of you are familiar with Unity? Yeah, heard of Unity before? Okay, and how many of you have ever seen the Unity, this environment here? Okay. So this environment, where every project you start always has a main camera and light in the environment. You need light just to cast on images in this area here. And this area here is called our scene, which is where we're going to add everything in. On the side here, you notice that when I click on this, there's nothing. On this here, it's called the inspector. But then when I click here, you see all of the properties of the light. All the properties of the light come up here. And I think that's the most important thing for us for now. Okay, so now we're going to import the stuff that we just created in Fuforia. And I'm going to go, to assets. In my mind, I'm doing something else in my mind. So we're going to import what we just did in Fuforia. It's a custom package. And we're going to import Roadshow. And we're only importing the image that we just created in Fuforia. That's all we're importing into this here. And so in the Unity environment, there are 3 things that we need to do. And so this is where I'm going to catch back your attention. The 3 things we're going to do is, we're going to place an image as our target. So this is the image that's going to be augmented. This is the image that's going to have the 3D model on it. What do you all think we need to do as a second step? Insert, that's a very big step. Insert what? What are we inserting? Yes, the picture. Excellent. Very good. I have no giveaways, so sorry. What's the second thing you think we need to? So the first thing we need to do is to insert the image into the scene. What's the second thing we need to do? Insert what other thing? That's the next very big step. Yes, we need to insert the 3D model, which is the wolf. And what do you all think is the third thing we need to do? Say again? Place it somewhere. Good. That's good. At some point we should save it. That's excellent. That's the final step. That's excellent. All right, so the third thing we need to do is to add an augmented reality camera, because you can't use a regular camera for it, so you need to get an augmented reality camera. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is to import the images. Did we do that already? We already did do that. So the second thing we need to do is to grab the 3D models. But first I'm going to take the camera. So we're going to go into Game Objects. Grab the camera. I feel like if we were supposed to do this image thing here first, which is to put the image into the world. So we say import that. And so the target image just allows us to have a target. And we're going to put the scene, as Nigel said, we're going to put the picture onto this target. And it takes a little while to, it takes a little while to do that. So file, build settings, please. I'm just activating virtual reality into the world. All right, so we have our target image. We're gonna just grab, this is very exciting for me. I'm actually feeling really excited about this. Like, we're gonna get stuff done. We're almost there. All right, and so once I pull the target image in, it automatically selects, puts the, let me just zoom in here for you guys to see. It automatically puts the image onto the surface of the environment. So this is our sidewalk right here, which is this picture here. I had to print it. Every time if you're doing an image, you must print it just so you have it to do the stuff on it. All right, so this is my picture here. So it's there, safe and sound. All right, and so the second thing we do is we add the, right, but then I said we were going to do something else as the second thing instead. Yes, the camera. All right, so we go into Game Objects again. Very sharp. All right, and then All right, and then so right now the camera is just facing all over. It's like not directed to the image. Let me just zoom out because this makes I don't think you'll see any camera. So this is the camera here, the AR camera. And so we are going to set it to, I think if I go through all of this explanation, you all may get lost and I'm scared that I lose you. So we're just going to, so I just put it above the image so that it's not like in the middle of the image. And then the second thing I'm going to do is it's not pointing down to my image. So I'm just going to rotate it, which is right here. I'm going to rotate it on the x-axis by x-axis by 90. So it faces down and it sees what we are doing. And then now we are going to add the license that we created in View for Rear. We're going to add that license. So let's go back to View for Rear. And Roadshow. So I was just working on a couple other projects, so just ignore those. But this is the one that we want, Roadshow. And what we're going to do is we're going to copy that license across to Unity to say yes. Go ahead and do your do on our image. Like, it's fine for you to do what you need to do. All right, so it's just literally to copy and paste. And I guess all of you all are going to try this at the end, like when you get home. Fingers crossed. All right, and then we go back into Unity and we give this. All right, so the license is there now. And then what was the third thing we needed to do again? I added the license. Excellent, we get the 3D thingy into the environment. All right, so we're gonna say assets, import new asset. We're going to use the wolf. All right, and then we're going to add him. Now, when we add him, he's going to like consume the entire screen. And this is where the width was important for us. So you see, we can't even see him properly. Like he's like Godzilla on our world. He's like taking over everything. So we're going to try to get him to be a little bit smaller. For one, we're going to center him on the scene, so he's just above exactly where we need him. And then we're going to scale him. So we're going to make him, let me try 0.5. So we're going to make him half his size, which is still too big in my opinion. So I'm going to try him at about 0.3, which I still think is too big. So I'm going to make him 0.03. And then he's too small, so I make him 0.4. So it's like you just have to play around. Sometimes you just have to play around with things and it all works out in the end. Promise. No, sorry, he is actually still too big. Okay, great, that's perfect. Do you all like this size? This is fine for you all? Do you want them bigger, smaller, anything? That's fine, okay, great. All right, so we are now, so he is on our target image, but to make him actually pop up in the real world, we need to add him as a part of the real world. So the way we do that is we just drag him. You see how, so initially, like before V4 and Unity and they started doing this wonderful stuff, all of this was coding. And so if somebody told me to make him part of the virtual world, I would have gotten a headache because it's like a lot of work. But now it's just like drag and drop. Everything is very, very easy and simple. So we just drag him like this and put him onto the image that we had that we initially posted into the world. And then that's it. We hit play. I'm making sure that this is really it. Okay, well, let's just test it out. Okay, so there's me again, and there he is. All right? Okay, so as you can see, that took the duration of the presentation. It was not very hard at all. It's very easy to do augmented reality for anything. If you're trying to, so for us, for the coconut industry, we need to do more than just putting these stuff together. We actually would have to code things to say, okay, if this land is, if it's too clayey, then don't plant coconuts on this land. If it's very sandy, then you're great, it's perfect. Do your stuff on the land. So we need to do some extra work in the industry. Well, we need to do some extra work for our augmented reality environment. But this is augmented reality, and we all did it together in less than 20 minutes, I think. But yeah, so that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Ria. That was a working demonstration. ICT at work. ICT at work. Ria, I don't know, tomorrow, time permitting, I may ask you to do a similar demonstration at one of the tables at the booths, okay? They work from there. Free of charge, just like this afternoon. The same way. All right. So we had two presentations. Any questions, comments? Yes, ma'am. Let me... Other mic. You plan to ask anything hard, or just asking one time? Because we mightn't be able to answer. Just start with. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay. Is it something like a hologram?
If what?
Is it something like a hologram?
If it's like a hologram?
Yeah.
Ria?
Well, except that the hologram, I would say, is more mixed reality because you are sending an object into a real world. But for augmented reality, you are putting the object into a real world. Whereas with mixed reality, you project the object into a real space. I wonder if that makes sense. But let me... Something special, correct. No. So we just saw the augmented image. We saw the augmented image. But to answer your question, let me think about this. So with the augmented reality, we put this virtual object inside of our real world. So we saw him as part of the real world. But with mixed reality, it's like you're doing the reverse. You are projecting the object into. So I would be sitting here, and then like I could put like the cow in the classroom, or I could put like a whale to see what's going on inside of a whale, like to see how a surgery could go with a whale or something like that. So I would say the hologram is more closely related to mixed reality.
You're good with that? All right.
There's a difference that maybe we haven't quite made yet. So, other questions?
Questions, comments? Yes, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. Is there anything special about your laptop camera? You mentioned a special camera to do the augmented reality.
Nope, nothing
The
special.
camera you were talking about was the one in the software itself. There's no special, it's a regular camera.
No, it's a regular camera. So you could do this on your laptop. It's just that you need, Unity has an augmented reality camera, and so that is the special camera, but it's a software, so it's not like your camera itself has to be some augmented something.
So your use of augmented reality is more along the lines of education, or could it also be used to analyze the environment?
Sorry, can you ask the question one last time?
So with augmented reality that you presented here for the coconuts, is it used for just education, or could it be used to actually analyze in real time?
So yes, you can. The potential for it is to analyze real time. But yes, just for right now, we're using it for educational purposes. And I mean, even in any other industry, like in the animation industry, Alex and I were just talking. And so he's going to try to use it for his stuff, for his purposes, which is to bring education to persons about a topic. So you could use it for just about anything that you want. It's just how you tailor your work. And so for the coconut industry development project, CCIDP, we are using it as an educational, right now we're using it as for educational purposes.
I love the demo. It's always super to see something working in front of an audience. So congratulations on that. How would you envision putting more stuff in the picture instead of just the wolf, like more the tools and multiple items?
So if you are trying to, it depends. If so for the coconut industry, for that project, we are using the software, the augmented reality, to help us to see where we can plant on a land, where we can plant nuts on a land. And so for that application, you would add multiple coconut trees on a land, on the image of a land, and it will say to you, okay, say to you that these are the places where you can actually plant the trees and get maximum growth. I would like to put more data on the screen for the person who is using the app that I'm creating. I would like to put information on things like projections for the amount of heat that they're going to get in that area based on the past temperatures for the region. I want to put things on like water, how much water you're going to get for the soils, to know how much you should irrigate and to know when to irrigate. And so I would like to put more things onto the app for it. So that would mean that I would get, like, I still would need to do more work for it. So there's a lot of things you could put onto the area that you're augmenting.
So my company deals with drones, so for something like that, you could probably just connect it to the normalized vegetative differential index. So you could just collect the data and just overlay the satellite imagery for all that data and just put it onto the 3D model.
Correct, yes.
So that's
the future application for it. At the moment, Cardi doesn't own any drones. So right now we just have to do the man labor, like walk around the field and stuff.
So Essential Inc. is here to serve you. If you have
Great.
those needs, we can take care of you.
Okay, great. And so just as he brought that point up, and as I'm saying this, so you use drones to go out in the field and do stuff for you. Use it to go check temperature, check humidity, and check everything you need to know. And then it comes back and says to you something. But I don't have a drone, so now I have to go out into the field and do all of that testing and whatnot. And so all of these tools are supposed to help to make your life easier. So the future of agriculture is not just in somebody with a hoe walking around digging up dates anymore. That's not what agriculture is anymore. Agriculture is now it's in a whole different age, and people are no longer out in the fields doing stuff. So this is just me trying to get more people interested in agriculture. So agriculture is no longer that stuff. Now you have to learn to code drones and know how to use a drone and do things like that, so that it is less you're making, because the tools are there to make your life a lot easier. And yes.
Mr. Chairman, if I might make a comment with respect to the Caribbean content thing. I really would like to support the call for more Caribbean content. And it would have been probably 2008, 2009, almost 10 years now, we created a document in the Caribbean in a forum we call the Caribbean Internet Governance Forum. We actually had the 14th annual one in May in Suriname. And in that document, which we call our policy framework, it has a vision for the Caribbean as far as internet governance is concerned. And I'm trying to remember the wording now, but it goes something like a knowledge-based society or community with strong identity in the internet, with strong identity in the global information society. Right? So the point is, back then, and it's almost 10 years now, a group of us from around the Caribbean who would have met every year trying to agree and document what we wanted for the Caribbean as far as the governance of the internet is concerned, decided that this is what we wanted to see, a strong Caribbean identity in the global information society. And our policy recommendations are in support of that vision. And one of the policy recommendations, one of the key areas, the priority areas we determined was the creation of content, creation of Caribbean content, promotion of Caribbean content, right? As opposed to just going on the internet to get stuff from other parts of the world. We want to put stuff out there. We want to make our identity known. As our Secretary General was telling the people in ANI yesterday, what you have has value, right? People come to your country because of its uniqueness, to get and see things that they can't see elsewhere, right? It has value, and we need to put it out there from wherever we are in the Caribbean. So I'll endorse that call for Caribbean content, and we need to develop the skills that we need to build up the Caribbean content out there. And one other question, where did the name Tinninben come from?
Well, you shouldn't get me started. Actually, it's very simple. In every part of the Caribbean, there's a way historically we used to end stories. I think in Trinidad, they used to say crick, crack, something. Right. Crick, crack, the wire bend, whatever it is. In Guyana, historically, they used to say the tin and bend and the story end. So that's essentially where we drew it from. Because we see ourselves as storytellers, not as any of these, we don't think of ourselves as ICT specialists, or we don't even think in ICT terms. We think purely in storytelling terms. Everything else is just a tool to tell the story. So when all we had was a microphone and a stage, and Parkins Douglas saw a microphone on the stage, well, that was it then. We just have a different set of tools to tell stories that are critical for now. So we come from a different place. And so we went back to our, the African and Indian roots of storytelling in the region, and essentially that's how we put that together.
All right. Last go round. Any more questions, comments? Going thrice?
For the Tinninben animation studio, is there going to be like shadow animation coming to Guyana soon? Or is it more along the lines of the manual creation of content?
We have most of the team here from the animation studio. I will ask Kiwan, who is our lead animator, who probably knows what we're talking about.
Repeat the question, sorry. No, we are continuing manual animation. No plans for that currently in Tinninben.
That's man said, they're the bosses. I was just asked to speak.
Okay, I want to make a suggestion because augmented reality nice, animation perfect. Actually, what we're looking for in farming is gamification. We all play Farmville. I don't know if you realize that the coconut tree in Farmville is like the one in the Bounty advertisement. Without the husk, it's like falling from the tree into a Bounty, you know? So maybe design a good coconut tree and gamify the experience and start with this is the lot of land and how you're going to invest it. I missed. Okay, perfect. Okay. And maybe send a new coconut tree to Farmville because their tree doesn't look right.
But what we were just discussing is that there's potential here, and there's potential here for developing the agriculture sector, whether it's coconuts or whatever, because we could actually, combining the two sets of tools, do the education for the farmers by combining the technology. So that's something we're probably going to try to explore based on the fact that Mr. Hines accidentally put these two presentations together. Usually it takes deep thought, foresight, and so on to do this, but we're grateful to him anyhow.
The trouble with him is that he didn't read the fine print and know to who gets the cut based on the association and collaboration that comes out of this meeting. Yeah, but we'll talk about it afterwards. All right, there being, sorry, it is one more?
Yes, there's one more. Let me try and make one last try on this hologram thing. Is it that the augmented reality is an augmentation of an image or an augmentation that has to appear on a screen because it's something from a camera, whereas a hologram could actually be projected in a physical environment?
Yes.
Okay, good.
That is it, yeah.
Glad you caught up.
You know he wasn't going home unless his matter was solved. All right, again, we've had a most instructive afternoon. Let me thank the two presenters, Mr. Alex Graham, Tagman Media, /Tinimben, Surya Jack from Cardi. I thank myself as the moderator. And most importantly, let me thank all of you for being here this afternoon. And I'm going to ask Ms. Bernadette Lewis, who is on the program, to do the wrap-up for us.
Thank you very much, Lance, and good afternoon to everyone. I'm Bernadette Lewis. I'm the Secretary General of the Caribbean Telecommunications Union. We are the ones who have initiated the series of Caribbean ICT Roadshows across the region. And what I want to say this afternoon, and I'm so happy to see so many young people here this afternoon, and the older ones as well. The fact of the matter is the world is changing at a phenomenal pace. Information and communication technologies are dismantling the traditional frameworks that governed our lives. And we're seeing it it's in our faces. You cannot escape it. And I see here people who are very enthusiastic about ICT, and I commend you. And for those of you who do not know that much about ICTs, I'm encouraging you to learn. There's a wealth of information out there. The information of the ages are available to you. And my question is, what are you going to do with it? Can you imagine you could connect potentially with every other human being across the face of the earth? Isn't that powerful? Yes? You have the opportunity for instantaneous, real-time interactions with everybody else who is connected. Yes? So what I want to say, this future casting that the session is just a taste of what is available. It's just a very small portion of what is happening. And it's not an ICTs, it affects every sphere of endeavor. Yes? And you cannot opt out. You have to embrace it. And what we are encouraging is beneficial, productive use of these resources. And 5 or maybe 10 years ago, I said, you know, don't spend your time looking at the shenanigans of people like Kim Kardashian and that, you know, and people are spending a lot of time looking at that rubbish. Yes? But there are programs and there are educational tools and there are opportunities to build your skills. What you just mentioned there, I mean, I was completely blown away that it is available to you. What are you going to do with it? And our survival, our ability to compete on a global basis, because we live in a global environment. You know, your competitors aren't the people in the Caribbean, you know. Your competitors are your people across the entire globe. So and our survival as Caribbean people is going to be dependent on how well we use these tools beneficially and productively to foster positive social and economic development. And we've had some marvelous presentations this morning and also this afternoon. And the future is literally in your hands. We are writing policy for you because we're, as my father used to say, you know, we are almost at the top floor of the elevator and the doors are going to open and we would need to step out. But we're expecting you on the lower floors to take advantage of these opportunities, right? And speak to the people who are not engaged, who don't know about ICTs, and encourage them to get on board. I use the example, I think, at one of the earlier sessions that I chaired. If you do not embrace these technologies, you're going to find it more and more difficult to participate in national life. You have a government here that is moving towards 21st century government, e-government services. And the example that I like to use is when the US Embassy introduced their online visa application. Did they come and ask anybody if they could use a computer? If they had access to a computer? No, you had to fall in. And the way the technology is unfolding, you have to embrace it and use it beneficially and productively. So I want to take this opportunity to thank our presenters this afternoon. Please show your appreciation to them. And I have to thank our moderator. Since he thanked himself, I will thank you. And I would like to thank all of you for being here. I think it's been a very beneficial, productive afternoon. And one more thing perhaps I need to say is that the systems that we've been accustomed to, for people my age, I should say, they hail back from 300 years ago. They're systems that came from the UK or the imperial powers brought them. We went through the whole colonial thing, you know, and those systems are still with us in many respects. When you use ICT, when you try to apply information and communication technologies, you have to innovate. You cannot just take the kind of systems you had before and slap it on the technology and expect to see transformation. You have to be creative. You have to think up outside the box. You have to innovate. In some cases, you actually have to discard the systems that no longer serve us and rethink what your challenge is, look at the potential of the technology and design the solutions that leverage the full potential of that technology. That's how you make it work. And I just want to echo again, we are Caribbean people. We have stories too. Kim Kardashian's story, it means absolutely nothing to me, and it shouldn't mean anything to you, because that is not our reality. Yes? It's not our reality. And I love it. I really appreciated what you said, because there's a misconception that development is a 4-lane or 8-lane or 10-lane highway and skyscrapers. That's not development. My idea of development is that I have my gingerbread house. If I forget the back door open, I'm still safe. When I turn the tap on, running water comes out clean. That my children are healthy, they are educated, they can be gainfully employed, yes, and that my surroundings are clean, and that I have respect for my fellow man, that I say hello to my neighbor, and I know who my neighbors are. That is development. That is Caribbean development. That you don't have to spend 6 weeks to do a 10-minute transaction in a government office. Yes? Yes, you know about it? You go, you come back, you go, you come back, you come back, you meet somebody.
That one is a bridge too far. Let's try with some other things. We're not going to tackle that one.
You all know about it. But the technology is there to change that. Yes?
Yep.
And the greatest challenge is up here. The greatest challenge is up here, is up there, up in your mind. And people think that hoarding information is how they maintain their power. But no, when you share information, that is when you get your power. Yes? And those are messages we have to be preaching constantly, if we are going to leverage ICTs for social and economic development. And I thank you all. Have a good afternoon. Sorry?
The cameraman, but that's my guy. Come in. I'm just trying to take a picture.
Never like for 20 years, for 20 years, a decade, 20 years of this, like it, never like it.